Before I joined NUYU, I was all over the place. I was so constantly worried about my grades, my after-school activities. I didn't know what was going on. And then my time management skills were also horrible. And then suddenly when I joined NUYU, it was like this light that came because I learned so many new coping strategies which really helped me throughout, and I still use on a day-to-day basis.
You can't deny, and the world can't deny, that students and people in general are stressed out these days, and more stressed out than they have ever been. And NUYU is important because it does something that we don't see a lot of. I mean, recent events have showed this, but we don't see it everywhere, and that's student voice being amplified and being taken seriously. When we started off as NUYU, we identified a problem in our community. And when I say our community, I mean the entire world. And that was stress and it being toxic.
At first, I didn't really know what mindfulness was. And being part of, just knowing that my peers were part of this group was kind of fascinating because I think they were doing it for a year already in the past. I learned more and more about what mindfulness was and how it helped others. And I kind of found out that it applies to me too. I'm stressed all the time. I have so many things that I have to do like any other person anywhere around the world. And I just realized that mindfulness is something that I could use for myself to benefit from. That's when I kind of got engaged with the group, and look at me now, I'm part of the group. And it was honestly one of the best decisions of my life because I can now look back and say that is something that changed who I am now. Because now knowing that mindfulness is a strategy I can use whenever, it's just so great to know that I have a way to get out of all the stress that I'm feeling.
NUYU is one of the most important groups of young people that I've had the privilege of working with for the past 20 years. The reason why they're so important is because this is a group that came to me and the universe sort of converged all at the right time, where I was able to listen to the problems that they were facing. I was able to have the right administration in place, where we were fortunate enough to have middle school administrators, our district administration, all listen to the major social emotional concerns of every student in the classroom. When I asked the group of students to write up on the whiteboard, what do you wish you could tell your teachers but can't? They came to me with heavy hearts of very real conversations, a point where I could let go and I could really look into what the messages were on the board and say to myself, now what do I do with this? Do I let it end here on the board as a classroom activity, or do I take it to my administrators, to my colleagues, to the parents and say, things have to change? And ultimately I brought it to my students and said, what do we want to do about this? How can we change this? Can we change this?
NUYU began when one of our teachers and advisors, Dr. McLellan Crawley, basically asked us a question. She basically wrote on the board, what would you tell your teachers to their face if you could honestly tell them? And we noticed that a lot of us were talking about how we could, if we could tell our teachers something, we would want to tell them how stressed we are. And I think that sort of struck a light when we decided that we wanted to focus on something on coping strategies for stress. So basically what we did, we formed a group of 18 kids and we called ourselves NUYU just because we came up with it. And it was just to teach the whole community about stress. And our first year we started talking about stress and coping strategies for it, but then our second year we transitioned more into mindfulness strategies.
It's about the people I've met, the opportunities that I've had, but it's also about the mindfulness. And a lot of people were very skeptical about NUYU at first because, oh, are you even doing the strategies that you're telling us to use? And I have to admit, a lot of the first year, I really wasn't doing much of it. And the second year, I was in 8th grade, I started to get really stressed about a lot of things that I'm like, I should probably start doing a lot of the things that we're telling other people to do. So I started doing things like meditation and even just paying attention to my breathing and a lot of the mindfulness strategies that we were giving other people. And I just started to think, wow, this is really working for me. I was less stressed. I was more relaxed. I could handle my emotions better. I could handle my workload better.
A big partnership that we made early on in our journey was with Attitudes in Reverse, or AIR, which is a local mental health organization that was founded by Trish Baker and her husband, whose son, Kenny Baker, lost his battle against depression in high school, actually in our district. And I think a major part of why we decided to partner with them was because we shared similar goals. They wanted to spread awareness about mental health, and we wanted to spread awareness about how mindfulness can help reduce stress and therefore help your mental health. So we invited them to various activities, to our wellness fairs. They brought in therapy dogs, which was pretty popular because who doesn't want to come in and pet dogs? We also volunteered at many of their activities so that we could help further their mission and our mission.
Adults and a lot of people tend to overlook the fact that kids can be stressed and that teenagers can be stressed. I think it's incredibly powerful that we acknowledge the stress and decided to do something about it, because in school we learn a lot of things, but we don't know how to cope with stress, even though it is prevalent throughout our entire school careers and never goes away as we grow up. So NUYU allows kids to teach kids how to deal with their stress and understand that it's not something to be ashamed of, and rather it's something that once you can control it, you can find that there's good stress and bad stress, but you know how to manage it in a healthy way.
During lunch, people could stop by and write what they were grateful for, and students chose like a variety of things to write about. For example, some people wrote how they're grateful about their parents, their siblings, their family, or even just their bed or pillow. And we put these up in our school in the main hallway, so the students could take a look at what they've written and see what other people were grateful for.
It's funny because I feel like our group didn't really choose mindfulness, but it kind of chose us, because in the beginning, our group simply was trying to educate students about coping strategies, not specifically mindfulness. But as our project progressed, we realized that the most effective strategies and the strategies that were most popular just happened to fit into the category of mindfulness.
By putting it into the students' hands, they would be much more successful at finding solutions for the problems, because let's face it, as adults, we spend a lot of time talking about issues, but our students are craving for healthy coping strategies. They're looking for ways to deal with their stress. They want our support, and we weren't really giving it all that we could.
When we decided that we were going to solve it, that was a huge step that we took, not just for ourselves, but the people around us as well. No one was going to teach us these strategies such as mindfulness unless we taught it to other people and we learned it ourselves. NUYU is important because we were able to impact the community in ways that not many other people can. We were able to reach out to students and teachers and parents and educators all over the world and tell them, hey, this is a problem that we're all facing and that we need to solve it. And so when we stepped up as NUYU to solve the problem, we did get backlash, but that's any group.
Autopilot is something where our brain doesn't really focus on what we're doing, but it's just doing it because it's part of our daily routine. That basically applies to anyone in our society now, because we all have so many things to do and our lives are just so busy that we never focus on our internal happiness, but more on our daily agendas and how to achieve and get success. But after really taking a step back and realizing that, wait, this is my body and I've just been acting like a robot, but now I have to take control of my own life.
When I left it up for the students to come up with their ideas, they knocked it out of the park. I mean, they really went and did the research. They connected with experts. They found a pediatrician, Dr. Vo in Canada, who had written The Mindful Teen. They worked with the Mind Up Foundation and the Goldie Hawn Foundation. They were working with mindful schools. We had so much support from Attitudes in Reverse. All of these stakeholders came together to help support the kids, but it was driven by what the students needed. And it was just the perfect time for everyone to work together to find solutions that worked for our kids, that worked for them, that are also working worldwide.
The sound of the bell.
You're in the moment, you're present, you're aware, you're being non-judgmental. Those are just some of the aspects that mindfulness encompasses. And a lot of people like to think that mindfulness is just meditation and yoga, and that's where they turn away and stop listening. But mindfulness and meditation and yoga just happen to be the two oldest ways. There are ways that cater to all people's personalities and likes and dislikes.
Meditation, what I do is I use various apps and websites like Insight Timer or Calm.com as guided meditations, and I use this for like a couple minutes, like 2 or 3 minutes, once a day, sometimes in the morning or before I go to sleep. And I listen to this meditation and bring myself back into the present moment and focus on what I'm going to do. So one of the ways that meditation has helped me is that before I start doing my homework or studying for a test, like there's a lot of things to do, and my mind's always jumping from one thing to another. Oh, I have this test, and I have to complete this, and I have to practice violin. So meditating for a minute helps me focus on the task at hand, and then go slowly from each task, so I complete it in the time that I need to, and I'm focused on it.
So say if I said walk, someone would walk around the room. When I said stop, someone would stop where they are. And then following that, another partner of mine, she would actually say 2 more commands. And then after 4 commands were introduced, we would just switch 2 of them. So first of all, it plays with your brain a bit to see, are you really paying attention? So first of all, what that does is makes you go out of your autopilot mode and makes you actually think about what you're doing. And after a few rounds of just going back and forth, we switch all the commands, which we have a total of 6. So it really, really forces your brain to step out of being a robot and become who you truly are by using by using all of your senses and your brain to work in the moment. And that's when I really learned how mindfulness is not just being present, but it's acknowledging what you are doing at the moment and then proceeding from there. So say if I ever had a bad test in the future, I wouldn't just focus on the bad test, but I would just say, okay, I did something wrong, but now what can I do in the future to fix it?
Before I joined NUYU, I would always think about what would happen if my grades were like this, and I was constantly stressed and constantly worried about my future. Being in NUYU allowed me to focus on the present rather than focusing on what's going to be happening in the future or what has happened in the past. I've become a more stress-free person because of NUYU, and not only that, I've gained many skills towards this, such as speaking in public, and I think overall I've become a more confident person because I've been able to impact our community.
We reach out to as many people as we can and open up the tough conversations that other people don't want to have. We talk about mental health problems. We talk about suicide. We talk about the things that other people claim are taboo. But that's why we need to talk about them. And as NUYU, I believe personally that we've opened up this outlet, this channel, for a way for us to amplify our voices, for a way to other people who are feeling the same stresses that we do to amplify their voices. And that's why it's important, because you can't solve a problem unless you acknowledge it and unless someone steps up. And in this case, it was a bunch of teenagers. But that's why it's important, because a bunch of teenagers did it. And that shows that anyone else can too.
Because a lot of the parents are going to want to go to that. They did last year as well. It's been about students crying out for what's important to them, and it converged at a point in my life when I was able to hear everything that was coming out, when they were writing on the board and letting me know what they wish they could tell their teachers. And there's an old adage in the teacher college of never ask students something that you don't know the answer to. And it was a moment in my life where I didn't know the answer, but I suspected that they would sort of revolve around such high levels of stress and so many things revolving around social emotional well-being.
If there's something you really have to talk about,
this is a group of students that has had worldwide impact, whether it's in New Jersey or even in Spain, where they have connected with schools everywhere, because stress and mental health, it's a worldwide epidemic. And these students were the canary in the coal mine that said, it's enough. We can't keep doing this. This is a rat race that we cannot keep doing. We're burning the candle at both ends, and we can't keep doing this. Please help us. And as a teacher, you have to look within yourself and say, what else can I do? I can't have this happen. Our superintendent really took this on, and he has a phrase of, not on my watch. And I took that to heart of, this is happening on my watch. I have to help my kids. I have to empower them with the voice to make a change.